Love is not just something that happens to you. Most things in life are a combination of happening to you and being a choice.
Was there anybody who told you that you're too young to get married?
Everyone, one evening, he just disappeared for 4 hours. We still loved each other. That was very clear, but as friends, that's why we broke up.
Hello and welcome to Love Handle, a series where we get unfiltered about love and relationships. So, our guest today made a conscious choice of getting married what most people would consider a young age. Hi Aditi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us on Love Handle.
Thank you for having me.
So, Aditi, there is this narrative that getting married before 25 is like leaving a party before 10 p.m. So, what do you have to say about that? Like, why did you make this choice of getting married at 24?
Well, honestly, I had already been in a relationship for a long time. It had been over 5 years, and there just really was nothing left to do. It just felt like the right choice and really the only choice that made sense.
And how did you meet your partner?
Funny story. We were 17. I had a boyfriend back then, and my current partner turned out to be his best friend.
Oh.
Now, I happened to break up with my then boyfriend within a month of meeting my partner. It just didn't work out. But beyond that, fast forward about a year and a half, he and I, like my current partner and I, had become best friends. And eventually, we just started a relationship.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. How did you break the news to your ex that you're dating his best friend now?
So another funny story. We basically played a prank on him, and at the end of the prank, we basically told him, well, the news of the relationship was much better than the prank. So that worked out.
Oh, okay.
He was very happy for us, honestly. Like, he is now my as well as his best friends. For that matter, he was one of the people, like the witness that signed our registry. So he's family.
So there was no drama there.
Nothing, none. I mean, generally speaking, he wanted us to be happy, and he knew that our relationship was never actually meant to be a relationship. Some people are meant to be friends and some people are meant to be together. That's how it generally has worked out in my experience. And we still loved each other. That was very clear, but as friends, that's why we broke up. So, of course, he didn't mind at all that someone else was happy, especially if his friends are happy.
Oh, that's so mature at the age of 17. So how was the shift from being like best friends to being together?
It was actually really simple for us. Essentially, we already really loved each other, and we knew that the other means the world to us. We were in every way understandable, already partners in a lot of ways. When we eventually decided to come together, it was a very conscious decision actually. It wasn't as romantic as you would think, actually. As it so happened, I was out of the city for a while, a few months. And that really helped us both realize that, what we're calling essentially a friendship is more of becoming a partnership where you just almost don't want to go through life and its mechanisms on your own. And you need that person with you to go through both the highs and the lows. So that period really helped us understand something. One evening, he just disappeared for 4 hours. When he came back, he just had a bright idea, and the rest is history.
And what were some qualities that attracted you to your partner in the beginning, in the initial phase?
He was a very genuine person. Essentially, he was very honest, didn't mince his words, called it exactly as he saw it, and was always there for everyone, essentially. Had a very strong instinct to protect people he cared about, which is something I really resonated with because that's something I have. So generally, it's been all about respect. I mean, as long as you can respect how that person is, no matter how different they are from you, it works out. He actually had a very different personality from me. I happen to be a very headstrong person, and he'd be the calm voice and the person always rational, steering the ship and making sure that the impulse doesn't topple it over. It's more of a kite and the person holding the kite on the ground situation. So really balances out that way.
So would you consider you're very different? Do you have different value system, or is it very like similar?
So I'd say that we're very different people, but our values are very similar.
Okay.
Like, we both highly value principles and just doing the right thing in situations. At times we can have different understandings of doing what the right thing is, but the intent of doing the right thing is just always been something that has been there for both of us, even on a lot of different things, like just what the priorities are supposed to be like, have just always aligned for us, even though we're, as people, as personalities, quite different from each other.
And what about your interest? Is there any overlap there?
Honestly, when we met, we were just 17, so interests were still forming. But I wouldn't say there were a lot of overlaps, actually. I love reading. He hates reading. He's a very go to the movies and watch a movie, have a movie night kind of person. And I'm a very curl up at home and watch the same movie in the comfort of my home kind of person. So we essentially were very different personalities. We just learned to account for the other's interest. It came very naturally. You love a person, you want them to be happy as well. So it's not that you're compromising, it's that you want to.
Yeah.
You want to see the other person happy. So it's very easy for you to keep it aside for a second and just do what they want to do. And you eventually learn to find joy in that. It also leads you to experiment. At times you just don't have an interest and you go into their zone and you find out that, okay, maybe it's interesting.
So is there something that you've learned and you found very interesting?
Essentially, he's very into martial arts. He has
Okay.
been this entire time. Now, I don't still practice, but I know so much about that right now. Even cricket, I always hated being around that because everybody just sit in front of the TV and it would be so loud and boisterous and everything. But I just know so much about individual cricketers and their life stories now, simply because he talks about it so much and we've grown to just talk about the topic. And similarly, he understands my interest in books. When I talk about them, he just comes to know. He understands the references I make. It's a similar thing where we've just adopted each other's interests and that's really worked out.
It's so interesting that you said that you were 17, so your interests were like still developing. So how did you make sure, like it's been so many years now, how did you make sure that you grew together instead of like growing in different ways?
Essentially, for us, life has always been about priorities. Love is not just something that happens to you. Most things in life are a combination of happening to you and being a choice. So, love and life essentially have also been a choice. Of course, we grew, and of course, there were periods where it felt like we're growing individually, but we've always steered the ship back to each other. We've always made sure that, we grow, keeping the other person in mind, and with the other person, we've helped each other grow. And when it comes to growing, essentially, people aren't static, I think. They find new strengths and new weaknesses all the time. You adopt each other's strengths, you even adopt each other's weaknesses at some point. But as long as you're growing together and you just keep the other person in mind, it's not that it's all going to happen on its own. It's just that you have to make it happen. You have to grow with that person in mind because that person's your priority.
Was there anybody who told you that you're too young to get married?
Everyone humanly available told us that we're too young to get married.
Yeah.
We're actually both Bengali, and essentially, we don't even know many more Bengalis who get married before their 30s anymore. Like, education is just so highly valued, and getting experience, saving, and just making yourself secure is just so highly valued. It's not that we didn't value those things, it was just logistically a nightmare at that point. It didn't make any more sense to just try and maintain two different homes and try to save when we were already putting everything in a joint bank account anyway. We never had separate expenses, we never bothered with it. So it was a logistical nightmare to think that, okay, we'll have to manage this for longer without just what we were essentially already following from day one.
Yeah. And did anything change after marriage?
A lot. We weren't living together before the wedding, so we did learn to live together. No matter how much you love a person, there's a certain curve to learning to be around them when they're at their most comfortable, which is at their home.
Yeah.
But it was simple. I'm not going to say that nothing changed. It was simple. You just adapt yourself and that person adapts with you. And intent matters. When you see that the other person wants to change with you, it's very simple.
And you've been together for so long, so how do you make sure that you keep the spark alive?
It's the smaller things. Just going out for a walk when you're super tired, just taking the dog with you to have some fun, to play around. The bigger things, of course, they happen, but we've had our most memorable days essentially when we're just out together once in a while. We just spend the entire day together, or we go to an amusement park and just have the entire day to ourselves and just have fun. And then on the drive back, we talk. And those honestly make the best days and the best moments because talking and reconnecting is what essentially makes sure that you're on the same page all the time. Sometimes the topics are stupid, sometimes the topics are serious, but talking is the key to everything. Communication has been really important to us. We did connect over communication right from the beginning. Even when we met, we stayed in a similar locality, so we went for walks every day in the evening. Funnily enough, I think in the beginning he was doing it for me and I was doing it for him, but we didn't figure that it's helping both of us just connect and talk and just have someone.
And do you have any relationship rituals?
We're both very spontaneous people. We essentially don't do a lot of things by routine. We do them as we want. But I suppose one has still been there. We just had this one thing because I didn't like the idea of loud firecrackers a lot. So on Diwali, he again likes crackers. So essentially, he didn't have a lot to do the first time we had the Diwali. So we basically decided on an alternate thing that would work, which was sky lanterns. So every Diwali, we basically, wherever we are, we just take sky lanterns and go to an open field somewhere and we just start them and look at them. That's a ritual.
Do you feel there are any advantages of getting married early?
Again, this is a very case by case thing, I think, but it was an amazing decision for us at least. Really helped us focus, when we weren't so focused on when are we gonna make time to get out of the house and see each other. We had essentially more time and focus to focus on other things like career. Like we have essentially both grown since we got married in our careers as well. And we're even I'm personally even considering going for further education. So it's just helped me focus my energy on not going in too many directions at the same time because the person I want to be with is at home. So now whatever I want to focus on, I don't have to make time, for the relationship on a separate note. It's just there now. So that's been a very comfortable thing to have available. And yeah, even beyond that, I think it's just very, again, logistically helpful. Just having the same finances and just making sure that you're not in two different houses, it helps you save. You have a relationship, you're in two different houses, you're paying two different rents, there's two different, just everything essentially. We don't have that problem anymore. So even from a financial standpoint, from a practical standpoint, it was just very, very helpful.
And do you have any advice, like a piece of advice for somebody who's considering to get married around in their 20s, early 20s?
So it really depends on the other person. At times the same thing can feel different for different people. So if you're married at a young age and you're sure, the marriage at an earlier age is actually going to give you direction and structure and clarity, which can be great for some people. But at the same time, if you feel like, you're not there, rushing it makes no sense. It makes sense to do it when it's just that simple, that doing it is so obvious to you that you do it. Marriage is a huge thing. You're there for life. You might as well think it through.
Thank you, Aditi, for sharing your love story.
Thank you again for having me.
Would you consider dating your ex's best friend? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like the video, please like and share and subscribe to Verona for more such wholesome content. Verona, matchmaking reimagined.